What's up, guys? Wednesday, January the 25th, 2023. Hope you're all doing well. Chris Phillips here, the Daily Crow of the Spurs Up Show. Appreciate you all tuning in. We have got a jam-packed show today. A lot to get into here on this hump day. Tons to discuss. I see Travis Allen, Todd Smith, Stephen Boyle Jr., Travi, John Edward. What's going on? Appreciate you all tuning in. Also, those in the Big Cock Club Discord. Make sure you head over to the TDC Questions channel. The TDC Questions channel to be sure your questions are answered there. Again, tons to discuss. We are taking your questions, your comments, and your calls. 843-790-3377. That's 843-790-3377. Bruin Nation, what's up? Brock Ballard, Cameron Blassingame. Appreciate you all tuning in. Of course, today, guys, again, we're very busy. Tons to discuss. It is game day. South Carolina on the road tonight on the hardwood, the men's team taking on the Florida Gators. Gamecocks are a big, and I mean a big road underdog, 17.5 points. Is it enough? Is it enough? We shall see. Helping us break it all down today, Mark Ryan will join us. He is a Florida guy, of course. Really excited because I'll be honest, I have not kept up with Florida basketball at all. I'm not sure how much Mark has either, but excited to talk that game with him. We'll talk some transfer portal stuff. We'll talk some Gamecocks, obviously, of course. Again, really excited for today. We just booked another guest for TDC for next week. So we are rocking and rolling this morning. Again, appreciate you all tuning in. Of course, guys, as always, TDC brought to you by our friends over at Prize Picks. Go download the Prize Picks app or go to prizepicks.com. And when you do, use the promo code TSUS. It's sign up. 100% instant deposit match up to $100. And guys, you can play anything and everything. College sports, pro sports, anything you can think of. They've got it over at Prize Picks. It's a fantasy game, of course. You pick up to 6 players, right? And if they all hit, you win big money. Or even just a couple of them hit, right? They've got different ways that you can play where you can win tons of money. So many fans and listeners of the Spurs Up Show to the Daily Crow have made tons of money with our friends at Prize Picks, and you should as well. So again, go download the Prize Picks app or go to prizepicks.com. And when you do, use the promo code TSUS to receive 100% instant deposit match up to $100. Be sure to check them out and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent you. Again, guys, appreciate you all tuning in. 843-790-3377. Like I mentioned, Mark Ryan will join the show at 12:15 today. We'll have him on about 30 minutes or so, talking a little ball. It is game day. Gamecocks and the Florida Gators on the hardwood tonight. Again, Florida is a 17.5-point favorite. It's going to be a tall task for Lamont Paris' squad, but you never know. Hey, this is a team that has not won, an SEC home game yet, but they have one on the road, beat Kentucky at their place. So you never know. You never know what could happen, but obviously, again, going to be a tall task. You're going to need the trio of Gigi Jackson, Michi Johnson, and Hayden Brown to all play well. South Carolina currently on a 3-game losing skid. How about this, though? I did not realize this. The Gamecocks have won 4 straight in Gainesville, dating back to 2018. So, I mean, you never know. you never know what might happen, right? You never know what might happen. Let's see. Florida leads the series 47-28. Let's see. Trying to find their statistics here. Their starting 5 probable starters are Fudge, Castleton, Jones, Richard, and Lofton. Okay, here we go. Florida scoring 72.3 points per game. They're allowing 65.3 points per game, shoot 44% from the field, 34% from 3. Got to zoom in on this. Their top guys, you look at, that was the last meeting. Never mind. Who are their top? Let's see. Where does Florida rank? Florida right now sits 4-3 in SEC play, 11-8 overall. So kind of a iffy year, if you will, for them so far. They've got Todd Golden, his first season at Florida. So the Gators going through a bit of a transition. And you look at their SEC slate, their wins coming over Georgia, Mizzou, and Mississippi State and Missouri. I already said Mizzou. LSU is who they beat also. lost to Texas A&M, and lost to Texas A&M twice. Excuse me. They've played Texas A&M twice and lost to them both times by 3 and by 2. So interesting stuff. Interesting stuff for sure. Anyways, guys, appreciate you all tuning in. Bruin Nation's got 65-62. Are you going Gamecocks? Or are you going Florida? I've already locked mine in, man. I'm picking the Gators big. I just unfortunately don't have any reason to believe that South Carolina is going to do anything that they haven't done. 73-50 is my final score prediction, and I know that I'm hoping to see the upset, but I'm keeping the expectations conservative. How about this PSA? South Carolina basketball, women's basketball. The February 12th game against LSU is officially sold out. How about that? Kudos to the FAMs. Kudos to the FAMs. Selling out the CLA, Carolina, LSU. And I'll tell you this. Dawn Staley and company are proof that if you win, if you build it, they will come. No doubt. If you win, I think it's a bit of a lazy excuse, right? I mean, let's call it for what it is, right? Basketball is not a sport where you're going to draw a crowd no matter what. But I think to insinuate that Gamecock fans don't love basketball, I think is unfair. I think it's very unfair, right? Because literally, South Carolina just sold out for the Gamecocks and LSU women's game. So if you build it, they will come. South Carolina fans will come out in droves to support and show love. No question. No question. There's nothing this fan base loves more than a winner. So good on Dawn Staley and company selling out the CLA. That will be a really, really fun one, guys. I think we're actually going to have 2 tickets to give away to that game. So stay tuned. I think we're probably going to partner with our friends over at Carolina Ale House to give away a pair of tickets to that ball game. I would say what? You think that's the biggest game of the college basketball season for the women's? I think so. I mean, I wouldn't doubt it. Brian Dean says USC 81, Florida 69. My upset special. Gigi Jackson with 37 points. Michi Johnson with 26 points. Jay Smith, I'm doing well. Appreciate you asking, man. Thank you so much for the love. Appreciate you tuning in. Elizabeth Ballard says Beamer ball to the moon. Brian Dean, I heard we still have a chance with the DN committed to Arkansas. Yeah, so Trajan Jeffcoat, Sports Talk late last night. And we posted the graphic on Instagram and Facebook this morning. But they reported last night that per a source, it's still an ongoing battle. There might be an update as soon as today. So the Gamecocks, it sounds like Shane Beamer and company are still fighting. They're still fighting to get Jeffcoat on campus. And, I mean, what a win that would be. I mean, obviously from the on-field football side of things, of course, the way that he can help, and he'd be instrumental at the edge position for you, and that's a position of need. Obviously, the Gamecocks losing a pair of edge players and Jordan Birch and Gilbert Edmond, right? No matter what you think of either of those guys, those are big losses. So who's going to replace them, right? I know you got some really talented freshmen, obviously, that are coming in, but if you could land a guy, if you could land a Jeffcoat and you could make that go through and get him in, I mean, it'd be huge, right? I don't have to tell you guys why that would be such a big deal, right? I don't think I have to explain that. So anyways, guys, we got Mark coming on the show in 6 minutes. You want to get your calls in before that, 843-790-3337. 700 Kelly says, are we getting Jared Cook? Jared, what do you mean Jared Cook? Who? I know Jared Cook, the guy that used to play for the Gamecocks. Let me go ahead, by the way, guys, and get this out of the way. We had all of that conversation about the Beamer stuff, the fan upstate stuff yesterday. You know, I addressed the tweet, everything, all of the madness with it. I reached out to Mark this morning, and I'm going to tell you guys right here, we are putting that behind us, man. I'm not feeding into it anymore. It's not a talking point. It's something that happened like a week and a half ago, and honestly, it's just silly. I'd rather talk about things that are actually happening on the field of play, events that are actually taking place, versus talking about per sources stuff. So just to let you all know, if you're tuned in, if you're on the edge of your seat wondering, I'm not talking anything related to the fan upstate, Shane Beamer, all that. That's in the past. We're leaving it there, and we're moving forward. The reason I bring Mark on this show, and many of you have asked, if you tuned in, right? If you tuned in 2 weeks ago when we were at Carolina Cigars and we had the first conversation with Mark Ryan, You saw why we have Mark Ryan on the show. You saw why I wanted to get Mark on the show, because when Mark's talking Gamecocks and he's on air with me, we have great conversation. We do. I think Mark does a good job in regards to talking South Carolina from a national perspective, right? He's not a Clemson guy, not a Clem sucks guy, as many people insinuate. He is a Florida guy. And I've enjoyed all my conversations talking South kind of football and South kind of athletics with Mark, and I'm able to push back and challenge him, and he pushes back on me and challenges me, and it's good, fun, friendly banter. So, again, we're going to continue, and we're going to move forward. We're not going to talk about the whole tweet stuff. So if you're wondering, I just wanted to go ahead and get that out there. I wasn't sure if if anybody was wondering, but we're not. We're moving forward. There's a lot of other exciting, fun things happening, and we're going to leave it alone. So, anyways. Yeah, the game against LSU, again, the ladies game. The ladies game is one that, that won't be awesome, that game against LSU. Jeremy says, does Vakari Swain play offense or defense? I've watched his film. He looks great at both. Just wondering what your thoughts are. Yeah, I don't know. I know that Shane Beamer had made the joke on social media about Clayton White and Loggins were kind of fighting over which side he'll play. I think that's probably something that'll be determined by need and by just once he gets on campus, kind of just where he fits in. You know what I mean? Just where he fits in. So let the coaching staff decide, but he's an athlete, right? And you love to have plenty of good athletes. And again, I think a lot of it will come down to just need. Like, where do we need more guys at? Do we need a guy at receiver? Do we need a guy at DB? But I think my viewpoint on athletes and recruiting, if they can make a significant impact on offense, I say play offense, right? Because if you want to play defense, whatever they want to play is what they want to play, right? Whatever. But I'm just saying my thought process is like, if there's a guy that's electric with the ball in his hands, like if he's an elite athlete and he can make plays with the ball in space, that's almost something like that's something you can't really coach, right? Hard to coach speed, athleticism, agility, also like vision, instinct with the ball in your hand. If you've got an athlete like that you recruit and he's just a naturally gifted playmaker, I think you put him on offense. I think you at least give him a shot first at offense, right? Tucker, what's up, my rip? What's up, my guys down there in Savannah? Appreciate y'all. Brian Dean says, ready for some Yardcocks baseball. Yep, 23 days, my friend. 23 days. 23 days. 23 days till first pitch. Looking forward to it. I'm not sure if Mark is much of a baseball guy or not. I'll have to ask him. Let's see. Big 12 baseball has announced their preseason honors. I would expect the SEC to do so pretty soon. I thought my good friend Brad Crawford did a good job this morning. He went on Cole Kubelik's show and talked to Gamecocks. I'm sure we'll get Brad back on the podcast at some point, but just talking about the transfer portal. I know a lot of folks just kind of felt some type of way, and we'll talk to Mark about this as well, but they felt some type of way when I made the comments about the Gamecocks and the, in the transfer portal and were the Gamecocks winners, were they losers? And, it's interesting when you look at what they lost and what they picked up. And, per Brad Crawford, lost six starters in the portal, basically. And the only guy that Brad really feels like you picked up that is like SEC caliber is Trey Knox from Arkansas. So I think Brad is probably, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but Brad, I think, is probably setting the expectations in year 3 at 8 wins. If they can repeat 8 wins, if they can go more, obviously it'd be a massive success. So it'll be up to Beamer and company to overachieve again. It'll be up to them to overachieve again. 843-790-3377, guys. We're going to go ahead and close up the phone lines because in the next minute or so, we do have Mark Ryan joining us of the Fan Upstate to talk ball. And again, this is great timing because the Gamecocks take on Florida, and Mark is a Florida guy. So I'm sure he's been following along with Florida basketball this season. Again, first year under head coach Todd Golden. And we've always known Florida to be a really good program. But Gamecocks normally play them well. Gainesville for sure. So John Edward, Jerron Willis, impact guy. Absolutely. Yeah, Jerron Willis is definitely. Yeah, he's going to start immediately. Maybe that's one that Brad forgot. But no, I think Willis absolutely is going to play a lot early. He's going to play a lot often. And he's going to help us immensely at the linebacker position. So going to help us immensely at the linebacker position. So, anyways, guys, 843-790-3377. Also, guys, I will say this while we're waiting for Mark. Again, I've been asked why I'm having Mark on the show. I'll just say this, guys. The same way that I am so grateful and thankful that a guy like JC Sherbert has me on his show, and he doesn't write me off because I've had some questionable takes over the years or had some questionable opinions or questionable tweets or what have you. The same way he doesn't do that to me, and he judges me more on my entire body of work and our personal relationship. That's how I feel about Mark Ryan as well. Has Mark Ryan said things I disagree with? Absolutely. Has Mark Ryan said some things that he deserves heat for? Absolutely. But 99% of my interactions with Mark Ryan have been positive, productive, insightful, entertaining banter. And so that's why I'm choosing to have Mark Ryan on my show. Not that I really have to justify it to, most certainly I'm not justifying it to the mob. I'm justifying it to the audience of this show that maybe just wonders. That is why. So with that being said, without further ado, let's go ahead and get him on. Mark Ryan of the Fan Upstate joins us. Mark, what's going on, my friend? How are you? Good to see you.
My friends, what is good? What is happening? It is a fantastic week. Back from the dead. Not from anything that happened sports-wise, man, but Chris actually had a pretty scary week last week, man. I had strep throat, which doesn't sound like a big deal until it enters your bloodstream. And that is what happened last week. I ended up in the hospital, it was a rough go. Was touch and go for a little bit there, man. So happy to have made it out of that. When you have an experience like that, man, everything gets placed back in proper perspective. You know what I mean? And so you realize that none of this other stuff really matters that much. And just grateful to be here, man. With God's blessing, man, anything is possible. And we thank him and we praise him and we cherish him for this gift of life that he gives us.
Yeah, Mark, it reminds me of a great quote, and starting today off on an insightful note, but it does remind me of a quote that a healthy man wants 10,000 things and a sick man wants one thing. So when you talk about that perspective, I think it is certainly great to keep that in perspective. And obviously, again, it's great to see you, hear from you, and glad you're doing much better. Obviously, I know last week was bit of a roller coaster. So obviously glad to see you in good health, good spirits. And yeah, appreciate you taking the time, Mark. Absolutely.
Always, man. Always. Thanks.
Yeah. And it's great to be talking to you, by the way, Mark, on game day. South Carolina actually headed to Gainesville tonight to take on the Florida Gators on the hardwood. Mark, it's crazy because I think about, Florida's got a really good basketball tradition. Florida's a school that I think, all the SEC outside of Kentucky, football is king, but Florida takes a lot of pride, right, in their basketball program. What I thought was interesting, though, it's been an interesting series between South Carolina and the Gators. The Gamecocks have not lost there since 2018. It's been 4 straight wins, I believe, for South Carolina on the hardwood in Gainesville. And an interesting year for both these squads, right? Both have first-year head coaches, Lamont Paris on the South Carolina side, Todd Golden on the Florida side. I want to start there and focus there. What's the mood around Gator basketball in regards to the job Golden is doing? You begin a new era. I know I was just looking at the records, 11-8 overall. I believe they are 4-3 in SEC play. So what's the overall thought around Gators basketball and just the year one of the Golden era, if you will?
Yeah, I think a lot of Gator basketball fans are wondering, how did the program get here, right? And I am always, Chris, trying to temper expectations because the reality is Florida is a football school. The reality is South Carolina is a football school. And if you hearken back, Chris, to the old Cheers song, you want to go where everybody knows your name, right? Like, people want to go where they have top billing. So there is something to that beef between John Calipari and Mark Stoops. There's something to that because Kentucky is a basketball school and will always be a basketball school. And I think that is very difficult for guys like Lamont Paris and guys like Todd Golden to overcome. Then you look at the success Arkansas basketball, Tennessee basketball, Alabama basketball is happening. And what you realize is that the SEC has prioritized basketball. They've put some of the resources from football into the basketball programs. They were tired of being an embarrassment and a laughingstock on that side. and you are starting to see the benefits. That said, Chris, back to your initial question, I try to temper Gator fans' expectations. Like, to me, as a Florida graduate, as a Florida alum, my expectation for the basketball program is to make the tournaments. If you make the tournament and win a game, you've had a good season. You make the Sweet 16, you've had a great season, right? Anything further than that, Elite Eight, Final Four, you've had a historic season. And when we polled our audience about Gamecock basketball, Clemson basketball, here's interesting, Chris. Two different fan bases, same expectation. The expectation from Clemson and South Carolina fans for their basketball program is make the tournament more years than not. I don't know, Chris, I fashion myself as a reasonable person. You fashion yourself as a reasonable person. Frank Martin made it one time out of 10 years. Brad Brownell's made it 3 times out of 13 years. It doesn't seem unreasonable to me to have an expectation to make the tournament more times than you don't. Am I wrong?
I think that's fair. I think it's that. And to your point, Mark, I think why that's so important, especially to a place like a South Carolina where, Gamecock fans are passionate. But unfortunately, the reality is like the entire point of the college basketball season is the NCAA tournament. And so it's like, unfortunately, then that was Frank Martin's problem is like, yeah, they were competitive. They were winning some games. They were doing some nice things. But like, unfortunately, when the dust settles, if you're not playing in the postseason, what did you accomplish? I just, it's why would anybody be interested if you're not making the postseason, right? So that's
there was a period of time, Chris, and maybe you can enlighten me on this, but there was a period of time where I was a student at Florida, and I looked up in the rafters, and they legitimately had inside the O'Connell Center at the time NIT Final Four banners. And I looked at my friend next to me and I said, we're going to do nothing as a program as long as those banners are there. Does Clemson have any banners like that? Does South Carolina have any banners like that?
NIT, we have a banner for winning the NIT.
NIT Final Four. Get those down. What's the answer?
We've got a banner for winning. We won the NIT back-to-back in 05 and 06. So they've got banners for
like. I feel like strep throat is coming back, Chris. I feel like it's coming back. My head's starting to hurt again.
Yeah. So I mean, it's tough sledding, and that's the battle you mentioned, obviously, Mark. That's the battle that Lamont Paris is fighting, and I think but what's unfortunate is this. Like, let me ask you this: what were the expectations for Golden in year one? Because I feel like you follow it closely enough, obviously, to know like there were zero expectations for Lamont Paris, which is on one hand understandable. On the other hand, it kind of sucks because when you have no expectations, that's when apathy sets in. Because if there's no expectations, why would you care? You know what I mean? Like, you're not going to get upset. You're not going to be disgruntled because every single game you lose, it's just, writing it off as, well, it's year zero. And I mean, that's fair. Like, the roster's in shambles outside of GG Jackson. But, it's just the result of ripping the Band-Aid off that was the Frank Martin era. What were expectations? Do you feel like Golden's meeting the expectations for Florida? Or was it immediately year one, make the tournament, you don't do that, you're falling short?
Yeah, I feel like if Todd Golden was ever able to make the tournament this year, and I realize that's an uphill climb from where Florida is today, but if he made the tournament year one, that would be viewed as a rousing success. Yeah. Now, Chris, I would dispute something you just said, and that is that, as a fan base, it's important to enjoy the journey, right? It's important to try to, in your mind, conceptualize what Lamont Paris is trying to do. And if you're able to do that, then the result, win or loss tonight against Florida, doesn't matter as much as if you have that moment, that seedling where you're like, oh, okay, I see it, I get it, I see what he's trying to do. That's going to work eventually. Now, the Gamecock basketball roster has been described to me as GG Jackson and 4 guys from the Y. Okay? That's how it's been described to me. All right? Now, I'm curious if you would agree.
I think that's a little harsh because I think Meechie Johnson, the Ohio State transfer, is a good player when he's hot. I mean, he can hit it from anywhere in the gym. Chico Carter can do some nice things. Jacoby Wright can do some nice things. Hayden Brown, the Citadel transfer, he has his moments. Even Josh Gray in the loss to Auburn, I thought he played his best basketball of the season. But as a whole, I think depth is their biggest problem. And they don't have anybody down low that's a real threat. Again, Josh Gray was, he flashed. But that's kind of all he's done his entire career at both LSU and South Carolina is flash. So Yeah, I mean, the roster at times, it definitely looks that way. At times, and more often than not, unfortunately, it definitely looks that way. So, I mean, that's the scenario you're in. You're asking a GG Jackson, a 17-year-old freshman, to carry the load for you. And as talented as he is, I mean, you look at the Auburn game, again, he scored 30 points, and they still lost by 15. So it's just, Lamont Paris said it beautifully, right? And again, depth is a major concern. We knew that coming in, but he said it beautifully. Out of the trio of Jackson, Brown, and Johnson, if two of those three guys do not play well, we're going to struggle to be competitive. Not win, be competitive, right? So, and for what you've seen most of the time, it's only been one of the three. And guess what? When all three clicked, what happened? They beat Kentucky on the road. And I know Kentucky's obviously a shell of themselves and they're struggling, but still, this team to go to Rupp Arena and win, third time in school history, very big deal. So, but to your point, I think it's about enjoying being able to recognize the small victories, right? Like, I think if you're just able to develop GG Jackson into a lottery pick, I think this year's probably a success, and you can use that in recruiting, and like, that's a minor victory, right? So, yeah, I think you just got to be willing to, like you said, enjoy the journey, roll with the punches, and give Lamont Paris time to build a roster and build his program. I think you have to be patient.
The other thing that makes it so hard, Chris, is that I think NIL and the transfer portal affects college basketball more than any other sports. I mean, you look at the NBA, one free agent can make the difference between a finals team and one that's in the draft lottery. And, you lose a guy because he played well maybe at a smaller school, or, let's say a guy played well at Florida and he wants to cash in and go to Duke, it makes it hard to build a program. I don't know how you build a program in the transfer portal one and done era. And it brings to light an interesting question for me, Chris. I mean, would a basketball program in the mold of a Florida or a South Carolina just be better off recruiting 3-star guys who can be there for 3 or 4 years, where you can build that continuity, right? As opposed to you have a 4-star, he has a good year, then he goes to the highest bidder. How the hell do you build a program in that climate, man?
Yeah, I mean, it's a challenge unlike any other sport. I mean, for example, the whole GG Jackson thing, and I think it'll be great, obviously, if he gets drafted and what have you, but it just, sucks for Lamont Paris, right? Like, if you're Shane Beamer, you can sell that, hey, Spencer Rattler, we got him. He's going to be here another year. Or when you get if you got a Nicholas Harbor, right? He's going to be here 3 years. And so that helps you in recruiting other guys. You just don't have that luxury in basketball because, like you mentioned, NIL, the portal, the draft, if you get somebody really, really good, I mean, it really, and two, it speaks to the success that the blue blood programs have had with these one and dones. I mean, I don't know why they don't just let guys go pro out of high school. I think that was a crazy rule when they switched it up. I don't understand the benefit of guys going to college for 1 year. They're not even really going to class, probably, right? Like, I mean, they're not there to go to school.
What about this, Chris? What about this? How about a rule? Because look, the NFL has some synergy with college football. The NFL says you can't go to the NFL until 3 years post graduation. And then every once in a while, you have a guy like an Adrian Peterson who threatens to challenge that because his body is more mature, but the NFL doesn't buckle. I worry that if that case gets put in front of the right courts, then that rule could also fall, because a court could say the NFL does not have a right to prevent somebody from pursuing their chosen career path. But Chris, it would be amazing if the NBA and college basketball could start working together as opposed to like competing forces. And how about you either declare for the draft out of high school or you have a 3-year commitment for college? It's your choice. You can declare out of high school and you can go that route.
It's just like baseball. That's what baseball does.
Right.
Yeah, that's what baseball does.
So why not have that synergy? And if you're going to go to college, it's a 3-year commitment. And then as fan bases, we don't have to go through this rigmarole every single year.
Yeah, I mean, again, it just makes it impossible. And I don't understand why that's not the move, because what does it do for a guy to go to college 1 year? I just don't get the point, like you're saying. So I would agree. I would like to see them adopt the same rules that apply in college baseball. I think it works out best. And I don't know. I don't know what it would take to get the ball rolling with that. But like you mentioned, the synergy between both parties. When you look at this game, Mark, tonight, Gators are a 17.5-point favorite.
Take the Gamecocks.
Take the Gamecocks. Well, I go into every single game with low expectations, especially on the road. Although South Carolina has played better on the road for whatever reason. You get this stat, Mark. I don't know if you've seen me tweet this. South Carolina's played 4 SEC home games. They have yet to lead at any point in those ball games, those SEC home games to this point. So kind of crazy. We have not played our best basketball at home. I mean, any brief thoughts on the game tonight? I mean, I've got the Gators. I don't know if the Gamecocks cover or not, but I think to go into, what is it now? Exact Tech Arena, I think I saw something like that. Exit Tech or something, or some, I don't know, some
It's
tech
NIT
company.
Tech Arena, Chris, is what it is.
Okay.
You know, that's
Gotcha.
that's what we're about at the University of Florida when it comes to basketball. Yeah.
Yeah. So, any thoughts on the game? Projections for the game. I would take the Gators to win.
I think the Gamecocks are going to have a difficult time with Castleton down low, I think Florida has enough to beat the Gamecocks at home. But in the big picture, Chris, both of these teams are, both of these programs have had serious recent success. They've since fallen on very, very hard times. I thought Frank Martin had an old school approach in a new school era. His message wasn't resonating with players of today. And so both programs have been washed up ashore, and they're asking, how did we get here? Things were so much better than this only very recently. And they're both trying to pick up the pieces, and it's going to take some time. I think if, for me as a Florida alum, given where the basketball program is today, the goal is to make the tournament next year. If you are a Gamecock basketball fan, I think a reasonable goal would be to make the NIT next year, right? And until that time comes, Chris, you and I, as content creators, are having the same debate. Do we talk college basketball, or do we talk football off season? And on my show anyway, I find that I get a better response talking football off season than I do talking college basketball in season.
Yeah, and I mean, my mindset, Mark, not to go off on a tangent, but my mindset's also shifted because when I first started my business, I was like, we're going to give the most in-depth, analysis of all three of the big major sports, and then of course women's basketball as well. But as you continue to evolve and grow and you get into a season like this, again, like for your show, you just realize your commitment's not necessarily to that, but it's to providing the most entertaining and valuable content on a day in, day out basis. And honestly, commentary around this Gamecocks basketball team has kind of lacked in those two areas. Real quick, though, before we get off basketball, because you brought up Frank Martin, Mark, and some folks just can't help themselves after every single game that South Carolina loses. And if I recall correctly, you applauded the Gamecocks, correct, for making the move on Frank Martin. I think you actually questioned the folks in the upstate for keeping Brad Brownell, although it seems to be working this season, surprisingly enough, and South Carolina beat them, which is crazy and almost hard to wrap your brain around. But I just there's some people I'm sure you've seen that'll, it was a mistake to fire Frank Martin. And I was someone that I just thought the relationship had run its course. I didn't attack the Frank Martin stuff with the same vigor like Will Muschamp, for example, where we all felt like, hey, this guy's just not a good head coach. Like you mentioned, the style just didn't work anymore. The relationship had run its course, and it was time for some fresh blood. And I don't think a rough season by Lamont Paris in year one should make people change their mind on that and make them question that. So I know I'm going back in time, but your just overall thoughts on like the Frank Martin chatter. I don't think you fall in the camp of they made a mistake, correct?
Chris, ultimately, you and your program will be a reflection of what the fan base will accept. And that is the case in any sports at any time. It made me bang my head against the wall when I moved here, Chris, when I was hearing nonsense like, we can't fire Muschamp. He's got the best record through 3 years that any coach ever had. How many games did he win through 3 years? 23 games. That's not even 8 wins a year. And you can't fire him, even though the writing was on the wall that he was in over the head, the tail was wagging the dog, was one of the worst disciplined teams in college football. Anybody saying that South Carolina should not have moved on from Frank Martin, I would say to you, please have higher expectations in your life. 1 tournament berth, Chris, in 10 years. Now, on the Clemson side of things, the worst case scenario for you as a fan is to have a coach who's just good enough not to get fired. And I said earlier in the year that it would be better for Clemson basketball to miss the tournament. I've since softened on that stance because what I'm seeing is they have a chance to do something special. They've had a couple guys that were on their bench that have really developed, that have really blossomed. Brad Brownell, like a cockroach man, he can't kill him. You know what I mean? As soon as he feels like he's out, as soon as he feels like, they're going to replace him, he puts out his best year. And it puts a fan base really in a lurch. So I'm willing to table the discussion on Brad Brownell, because they're chasing history this year. They're chasing something special. In the end, though, Chris, he would have to make the tournament 6 years in a row for his tenure at Clemson to be making the tournament more years than he missed it. And Clemson fans voted that should be the expectation. Lamont Paris, that's the expectation for him. It's going to take some time to build it. I think he's a hell of a coach. I followed him very closely at his previous stop. Let me tell you, Chris, there was a ton of interest in and around our area in that Gamecock basketball position. He got the job. I think Ray Tanner made the right call on that hire. And I think if Gamecock fans can just have patience with Coach Paris, they're really going to like what he does there.
Now, Mark, let's move into recruiting because obviously we sit 1 week away, which will be fun to talk to you next week on National Signing Day, by the way. The should I say, the old true National Signing Day, right? The early signing period has changed everything. But it is National Signing Day, and Nicholas Harbor, that is the name. That's the guy everybody is going to be paying attention to. Which school does he pick? I know yesterday on your airwaves you spoke with Brian Doan, I believe that's how you say his last name, of 24/7 Sports, and I actually listened to his segment. What I thought was interesting, he went practically the entire segment, unless I misheard, without mentioning South Carolina and their role in the race. And I felt like he spent a lot more time talking about Oregon, Maryland, Michigan. What did you pick up from what he had to say? Because I thought what he said was interesting is like nobody knows where Harbor's going, not even himself, right? It's one of those things they've kept it really close to the vest. So your just overall thoughts on Harbor's recruitment, and did you pick anything up from Dona where he might land, what he might choose a week from today?
Well, we have a comment here. Gamecock Barbecue says 8 out of 10 Clemson fans don't even know they have a basketball team, Chris. I would like to amend that, Gamecock Barbecue. 8 out of 10 Clemson basketball fans actually classify as Duke basketball fans. And it's the most pathetic thing I've ever heard in my life. The rules of sports fandom states you're allowed one big school and one small school. I can be a fan of Florida and Furman, UF and FU, okay? You can't claim Duke because your basketball program stinks. Imagine the confusion anytime Clemson plays Duke in basketball and God forbid beats them as they did this year, Chris. But to your point about Brian Doan, he was very careful, and I want to make sure that I'm not paraphrasing or quoting him inaccurately. The segment is there for all of your listeners to listen to. It's posted on the Fan Upstate on Facebook or Twitter. And he said, Chris, in no uncertain terms, that he has no idea what ultimately he's going to do. And then he was intimating that if he had to handicap it, okay, he didn't give a number or anything, but he did say his mom loves Michigan. His mom is a Wolverine fan. He loves the Michigan track program. He has an affinity for how he would be used as a tight end at Michigan. But he did make sure to say that he really had no idea. And I think at one point he said he thinks it might come down to Oregon and South Carolina. If anybody can wrestle him away from South Carolina, it could be Oregon. My simple request is this, Chris, just please don't have it come down to money, like is the case with everybody. Like very few can compete with Phil Knight and Nike and the money that Oregon can dish out there. I commend Shane Beamer for the connection that he's making with a lot of these kids, because you're not hearing money associated with South Carolina. I get the sense that Shane Beamer is saying to these kids, we're going to fully support your NIL efforts. But here is what we're building at South Carolina, and here is what you can achieve at South Carolina. And Chris, Cam Pringle grew up a Gamecock fan. It's great that you get that guy. He's a hell of a prospect, but he grew up a Gamecock fan. When you go to Savannah, Georgia, and you get Michael Smith, the number 6 tight end in America, 4-star tight end, and then the first thing I do, Chris, is I look what other schools offered him: Alabama, Michigan, Florida, and Florida State. When you are delivering a Michael Smith, that's what opens your eyes, brother. And then when you consider that last year was the first year, maybe ever, that the Gamecocks hit the blue chip ratio, what are they looking at? How are they tracking for 2024? Oh, 3 for 3 on the blue chip ratio for 2024. It's like Beamer is very aware of what that blue chip ratio is, and he's hell bent on getting the Gamecocks into that, and he is succeeding. And I might add, Chris, he is outperforming Dabo Swinney when it comes to local talent. In 2022, in the 2022 class, which is recruited in 2021, Dabo Swinney got 4 of the top 5 guys in the state. In 2022, Dabo got none of the top 5 guys. Beamer got 4 of the top 5 guys in the 2023 class. Now you look ahead to 2024. 4 of the 5 guys, again, are tracking to South Carolina. So if Dabo isn't careful, Beamer is going to successfully put a ring around South Carolina, and any 4 and 5 star, it seems the last few years, is targeting the Gamecocks first. And that's a major feather in Beamer's cap.
And certainly winning on the field helps as well. Certainly that win that took place in November, that is why, or one of the big reasons why that game is so big. And I think, Mark, you make a great point, and we'll close with this on the NIL stuff. And I know that we talked a little bit briefly Monday on your show, the Jalen Rashada stuff and the negative side of NIL. And it is refreshing, though, to your point, to hear that, I say this tongue in cheek a bit, but like any school can go out there and just throw the bag and land a guy and they take the biggest check. But the fact that you mentioned, you speak to, it doesn't feel like, and South Carolina's doing their part in the NIL space, of course, let's not be naive, but Beamer is bringing in guys that he's building a genuine connection with, and guys that you feel like, and I wouldn't be surprised, Mark, the transfer portal is always going to exist. And I think fans need to understand. And the reason I like the portal is because, hey, if it's a guy that he's not playing, gets buried on the depth charts or what, a guy can go better his own situation, right? But in regards to seeing starters exit through the portal, and we've talked about over the last week or so, was South Carolina a winner or loser in the portal? And Brad Crawford made the point on a different show that South Carolina lost about 6 starters. I mean, the portal hit them hard, right? You got the victory, of course, getting Juice and Rattler back, but the portal really ravaged them, it felt like, this cycle. But I think you'll see less of that, Mark. And I don't, who knows what'll happen, right? Craziness can happen in college football. Maybe you'll see less because Beamer's building that genuine connection, whereas you see these guys that have left, they've all been guys that were recruited by the previous staff. They don't have that loyalty. So I do think there's something to say about guys that choose your school for your school and not just necessarily for a bag, if you will.
Well, no, 100%. And you want that to be a major factor. When Lane Kiffin comes out and says 100% of kids list NIL as their number one factor, man, you see the problem. And honestly, Chris, I don't think we're doing right by young people by not incentivizing them to work hard for their money. You know what I mean? This Yama Lieva guy at Tennessee, $8 million for doing what? For doing what? What has he done? And are you incentivizing him to work hard for the money that he makes in his life? Jaden Rashad at Florida, get the hell out of here. I don't want a guy who's coming to Florida for a $13 million bag, and that's the only reason he's coming there. And now he's shopping his services elsewhere. And the hard part, Chris, is you're now losing SEC starters who are going to be returning starters, where now they've entered the mindset as my value is up. I'm going to go to the highest bidder. And this is Exhibit A as to why we cannot have regulations and guidelines on this soon enough. Remember, I spoke to Greg Sankey about this directly, and he said we need the governing body, the NCAA, to do their job. Tampering, recruiting players that are on other people's rosters are expressly prohibited. Yet you're hearing what Mac Brown is saying about Drake May and the offers he's gotten. It's illegal. It is against the rules. And all these guys that left the Gamecocks, shame on them, man, because that is against the rules. Beamer's trying to make them be a part of their culture and building the culture, and they're in it for themselves. They're not in it for the culture. Chris, I will close by saying that I wish the Gamecocks a ton of success this year, okay? A ton of success this year. I subscribe to the SEC as family theory, okay? I'm a Florida Gator. I root for other SEC teams. I describe it to people as follows. It's like your Thanksgiving dinner table. Each member of the SEC is like a member at my Thanksgiving dinner table. Yeah, you like some family members better than others, but when the family goes up against members outside of the family, you're always rooting for the family. So we butt heads from time to time, but ultimately, I think Beamer's doing a lot right in Columbia. He's really drumming up the energy. He's got a chip on his shoulder that I've experienced that I can relate to. And the chip on his shoulder is something that's going to lead him to tremendous success. So I wish nothing but success for the Gamecocks moving forward. And I think absolutely positively they're headed in the right direction.
Mark, very well said. One final thing that just came to me before I get you out here. You know, we've talked a lot about the rivalry between South Carolina and Clemson and the pressure that provides, right? When your little brother or your brother starts doing well, it provides more pressure on you, right? That just naturally comes. Do you feel like how much more pressure is there on Billy Napier and the Gators because of the success that Florida State and Norvell are having? I mean, I'm seeing some preseason top 25, some way too earlys. Florida State, a preseason top 5 team? Like, how much does that hike up the pressure in Gainesville for them to get it going?
Florida State as a top 5 team shows that everyone's a comedian, Chris. It really
I
does.
mean, I was
Chris,
baffled. I was shocked.
That is a 5-3 team in the
Right.
ACC. Everything I just shared to you is
Right.
true.
Right.
They were 5-3 in the All Cupcakes Conference. Now, channeling my inner Dennis Green, if you want to crown them, then crown their ass. Okay? But that's not something I'm willing to do. I do think Mike Norvell is the right guy for them, but how did the first few years of his tenure look there at Florida State? And Florida fans need to understand and accept that it's going to take time. It's going to take time. Next year is year 2 for Napier. No Anthony Richardson. Graham Mertz is the starting quarterback. Against year 4 for Mike Norvell. That's a major advantage, Norvell. Next year is year 3 for Shane Beamer against year 2 for Billy Napier. That's advantage Shane Beamer. If you've got the right guy, and South Carolina does, and Florida State looks to as well, that's a major advantage. Florida fans have got to be patient with Billy Napier. I've said to my Florida friends, Chris, I said, if he gets one game better every year, is that good enough for you? If he goes from 6-6 to 7-5 to 8-4, my friends, impatient as they are, Florida graduates said he'd be fired in year 3. So that might be the case, Chris. It might be that Florida can't get but one game better every single year. And I don't want to be the impatient program that doesn't let that build, that doesn't see that through, right? For Beamer, it would be a success. The goal has got to be 9-3 next year, but it would be a success if you can maintain that 8-4, something that Steve Spurrier did not do right away, something that Will Muschamp wasn't able to do. If you can show that, okay, 8-4 and top 25 is the new norm at South Carolina, that would be a success, because this is a program that have had flickers before, but have not been able to sustain. So that's where we are.
All about building consistency. I agree with you 110%, Mark. Hey, Mark, this was a blast, man. I appreciate you. Again, looking forward to doing it every single Wednesday. And next Wednesday will be a lot of fun, man. National Signing Day. I'm looking forward to chatting. And again, I appreciate you, everything you do. And again, most of all, glad to see you healthy and in good spirits. And I know we'll talk soon, my friend.
Always happy to join you, Chris. Have a great one, man. Take care.
Yeah, man. Take care, Mark. Appreciate it. Great stuff. That was great stuff from Mark Ryan. Appreciate him taking the time. And, you know, for anybody that may have asked previously, why do you have Mark Ryan on your show? Well, that segment is your answer. Guys, we're going to jump into a quick break. On the other side, I want to continue to hear from you. Hey, we're going to take your questions, your comments, your calls, and more on the other side. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow. All right, guys, we're back. Taking your questions, comments, calls as well. 843-790-3377. That is 843-790-3377 here on this Wednesday, January the 25th, 2023. Hey, you guys just saw the slide. Just to let you all know, the watch parties, the tour, if you will, will actually start later than I originally thought. Just received an email from Carolina Ale House. It looks as if we're going to start it more so in the middle of March, which is totally fine with me. I'm cool with that. But yeah, just stay tuned for the dates. We're still working on finalizing everything. John, have we heard from the Queen lately? Yeah, we were together last night. She actually is hit the road for the next couple of days, visiting some friends out in more so the West Coast, Rockies, if you will. So I'm actually watching the dogs, John, through the weekend. So I got two little puppies here at the crib with me. They're not in here, but obviously, yeah, we're doing some dog dad work here for the next couple of days. But no, things are good on the home front, my guy. Things are good with the Miss TSUS. Things are good with the Queen. So, anyways, appreciate you asking, John. Great to hear from you. Anyways, 843-790-3377. That is 843-790-3377. Oh, John. Okay, so Bruin Nation, he's referring to Rebecca. Okay, well, my bad. Okay, all right. The Queen of TDC, you mean? Okay. Have we heard from Queen Rebecca lately? No, we have not. Rebecca had COVID and then was just chilling. So I don't know. By the way, nobody mentioned anything about it. How about right here to my right, I think the left of your screen, we got the new piece down there. The shout out my guy Jacob Olson, former Gamecocks baseball player, made that for me a couple years ago. So finally got it in the studio. Appreciate him, and I think it's a cool piece. America and the Gamecocks. What could be better? Anyways, guys, want to hear from you. 843-790-3377. Again, if anybody wondered why we have Mark Ryan on the show, that was a fantastic segment. I appreciate Mark taking the time. It's like I've said, guys, about my own existence on social media that, here's the thing. If you're giving thousands of opinions, which we are, right? And Mark is as well. If you are giving opinions and takes and you're tweeting and posting on the daily, you're going to have some takes that just flat out miss, or you're going to have some takes that don't do well, right? That's going to happen 1% or 2% or 3% of the time. So with Mark, it's the same thing. He's just like me. I've had 2 to 3% of questionable takes, right? I have. We can go down the list of them right now if we wanted to, right? But a guy like J.C. Sherbert, people that come on my show, people I work with, they don't look at the 3% and judge me and write the story on me by that. They look at the 97%, and that's where they put their stock in. That's where they put the value. That's how they view me, as the good exponentially outweighs the bad or the questionable or the controversial or what have you. So I look at Mark Ryan the same way. I think it would be, and not to go down a rabbit hole, but see, that's the problem, right? With this cancel culture type of thing we see sometimes on social media. And listen, there are some things that some people do that are like, that they face like legal action because of it. And there's things that happen that, you can't look past, right? I'm not saying that everybody that faces consequences for their own actions, it's cancel culture. That's not what I'm saying. But we do see it on social media to where it's like people want to, if somebody has a questionable opinion, they say something you don't like, they should be thrown in the loony bin, thrown in jail, canceled off the internet, lose their livelihood. For example, and I know my guy Bruin Nation might raise an eyebrow, but like this Trajan Jeffcoat thing, do I think it's absurd he's not being allowed into USC? Yes, I do. Right? Do I think that they should accept him? Yes, I do. But to, cancel someone's livelihood over it, I don't like it. I'm not a fan of it. Like, if you want to make somebody's life hell, if you want to give them hell in the comments, if you want to voice your displeasure, but like, where's the line drawn, right? Because if you cancel everybody that has a smudge on their record, or not even their record, but I'm saying their record of life, not a legal record, but if you cancel people based off of just, did they make a mistake before? Well, guess what? Show me one human being that has not made a mistake. It may not be in the public eye, but everybody's made a mistake. So, and again, some more severe than others. I'm just saying, though, I think you guys are understanding what I'm saying, that, like, you don't just write somebody off because 3% of their commentary is questionable takes, right? I choose to focus on the 97%. That is really high value and provides a lot of value to my audience and to Gamecock Nation. And so there you go. Not that I, again, have to justify or explain or anything like that. But to Bruin Nation, to your point, while I'm saying you shouldn't try to cancel and get their livelihood, take food out of their mouth, I think absolutely people should reach out to USC administration and voice their displeasure and question the system, right? Question why this is all taking place. I have no problem with that, right? I have no problem with that. But when you start actively trying to take food out of people's mouths, that's when, to me, it just gets, I think you got to be a sad, pathetic human being to do that. I really do. I think you've got to be a miserable, sick human to do that. So anyways, that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about Gamecocks. 843-790-3377. South Carolina taking on the Florida Gators tonight in Gainesville. What are your thoughts on what Mark said in regards to the expectations for South Carolina basketball? Like, would you agree the expectations over the course of a decade for Lamont Paris are to make the NCAA tournament more than you don't? So 6 out of 10 years. Are they less than that? Honestly, I said that, I'd just like to make the NCAA tournament every 3 to 4 years. Really, truly, if we can make the NCAA tournament 3 times in a decade, 4 times in a decade, that'd be a good start. That would be a good start. And John, to your point, expectations should be to make the tourney every year. I mean, John, I do agree with you because, again, it's like I mentioned with Mark, and I've said this many times before, it's the unfortunate thing is that if you don't make the postseason, if you don't make the tournament, what did you accomplish? You know what I mean? I guess you could still go to the NIT, but like the entire season is built to get to March Madness, right? I mean, is it not? It's built to get to March Madness, So, I think that was just, again, what was so tough for Frank Martin is like, yeah, they're doing great things. They're doing great things. But if you're not making the tournament at the end of the season, it's just kind of like, what'd you do? What'd you do? So anyways, Brennan says, show us the dogs, you coward. Well, one of them I couldn't pick up because he's a big dog. The other one's a tiny little Yorkie. Tiny little thing. So she's adorable, but I don't know. I don't know how the dogs might be camera shy. I don't know if I want to put the dogs on camera. Anyways, guys, appreciate you all tuning in. Podcast will drop tomorrow. I am going to wait until after the game tonight to record the show. So it'll be up to date as soon as the game tonight concludes. Also on tomorrow's show, we're going to talk Gamecocks catchers as we continue along with the position unit preview series for the Yardcocks. Tomorrow's show, we're double dipping when it comes to guests. We've got SEC Mike. He will join us, Michael Bratton of That SEC Podcast. He will join us at 12:15. And then, of course, at 1:15, like he does every single Thursday, J.C. Sherbert will join us. Then on Friday, we got Kyle Peterson, ESPN college baseball analyst. So he'll join us Friday on TDC. And then actually next week, we're plotting on 2 different guests. One of them being, let me look at my DMs. One of them being my guy, JD Pickell of On 3. He's the host of The Hard Count, which airs every single day on YouTube. And then we're working with our guys, Southeastern 14. I think we've got them planning to come on Tuesday. So we're getting jam-packed with the guests. And excited to have those guys on and talk ball. And it's always a pleasure to bring in different perspectives and chat with people. And, next week will be a really great week to have those folks on too, because, not only are we getting closer to baseball season and basketball is full swing, but we got signing day next week. And the Nick Harbor thing is going to be a major talking point next week. And, it's going to be interesting. Going to be interesting to see where Nick Harbor picks to go. Ruin Nation said, I don't think she should be fired, but should have to answer questions. I jumped the gun on saying that, but I definitely think that people sharing her address and stuff's way over the top. I mean, yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. Ruin Nation, that's crazy. I get, listen, I understand being a fan of a team, right? I understand being upset when things don't go your team's way, whether it be losing a game, not getting a player you wanted through the transfer portal, a kid changing schools, whatever it is. I understand being upset. Being upset to the level where you're sharing someone's address, being upset to the level where I saw a tweet where some guy said, I hope people, when they see TSUS out in public, I hope people are harassing him. That's a real tweet on the internet right now. I hope people are harassing him when they see him in public. To take it to those levels, it means too much. You really need to take a step back and look at your priorities in life. If you have the ability to do those type of things, to encourage harassment of another human being, you really need to back off the ledge, look in the mirror, and do some self-evaluation sincerely. Like, look deeply within, because something has gone sour. Something is spoiled. Something is rotten. Because no human being with a working, functioning, at peace mind operates in that manner. Nobody does that. Nobody does that. Nobody who's at peace, who's genuinely happy, who's fulfilled. Nobody's doing that. So, and I will say this though. Big wash, should I stand on that? Hey, listen, if it's researched and like if there's malpractice going on behind the scenes, right? That's damaging to USC, then I'm not saying that consequences shouldn't take place. I'm not saying that. But I guess it's tough for us sitting here because we just don't really know. We don't really have all the answers. We don't really know exactly what's going on behind the scenes. We don't know. So I don't know. Coleman Hall, as long as we win 60% or more of our games and make the tournament about half the time, I think Lamont would be the GOAT as South Carolina men's basketball coach. Coleman, I would agree with you. And I would say this too, man, like just finding consistency across all the sports. I think that's all we want, right? Like, I just want to be I want to be consistent. Like, I want to be consistent, I want to be consistent. Like, consistently in the tournament would be incredible. As Mark said, Shane Beamer, if Shane Beamer is able to, and some of you might scoff, roll your eyes. Luke RJ might say 8-4 in year 3. That ain't Beamer ball. But if you're able to create an environment where 8-4 is just the norm, that's a great position to be in, dude. That's a great position where all of a sudden it feels like 8-4 becomes kind of the floor, right? Where it's like, we're going 8-4. Our expectations are above that now, And I don't ever want to get to a point where like we're saying 8-4 was like a bad year, but it more so becomes the norm. Like that would be a great position. For example, for Alabama, right? Or for Georgia, going to the SEC championship, that's the norm. Winning double-digit games is the norm for them. Like that's not special anymore. It's the norm. That's their expectation, right? So you want to get to that level, but you got to walk before you can run. So Coleman Hall winning South Carolina football, going 8-4 or better 3 years in a row. Great point. I mean, you think 11-12, 10-13, right? That was the greatest run in school history. You had the back-to-back really good seasons in 2000, 2001, the back-to-back Outback Bowl wins. Muschamp went, what did he go in year one? He went 6-6, right? 6-7 with the bowl loss. Then he won 9 games. Then he won 7. And then it just completely went downhill. I mean, outside of that, Coleman, yeah, I mean, the 80s, I guess. I mean, you have to look at like the black. I mean, dude, you think about that, though. Like, there has not been a lot of sustained success. There hasn't, man. So year 3, to your point's more about finding sustained success. It's more so about that than anything. I mean, winning 10 games and, doing something crazy and going to Atlanta would obviously be incredible. It would be incredible. No questions asked. And we all consistency. to be a volatile program where we're going back and forth and we're just trying to find ourselves on somewhat of steady ground. Like I want to see some consistency, no doubt. So I think if you can do that, you're in a really good position. In case you missed it, guys, South Carolina sells out for the February 12th game against LSU. Really exciting stuff. Really, really exciting stuff there. Let's see. Okay, looks like D1 Baseball is dropping their conference previews. I don't know. I don't think they've dropped their SEC one yet. I don't think they've dropped their SEC one yet. So once they do, obviously, that'll be a big talking point for us. By the way, guys, great convo tomorrow, especially, again, you're a big fan of the Yardcocks. You definitely want to tune in tomorrow. Aaron Fitt joins the show of D1Baseball.com. Great stuff from him. D1 Baseball, of course, is high on the Gamecocks. They've got South Carolina ranked 23rd in their preseason top 25. So they feel like there's a lot to be optimistic about. There's a lot to be excited about. And again, I feel like you can hear that in our conversation. So really appreciate Aaron taking the time. Look forward to you guys hearing that conversation. Really, really good stuff from Aaron Fitt. Let's see. Coleman says, like, all due respect, we should have high expectations. Should want smart coaches, but we shouldn't be overly upset with only 8 wins year in, year out. I think that's fair. Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, you can be disappointed, but like being genuinely upset and frustrated, it's like 8-4 still at this point is a good year for Carolina football. Really good year. Here we go. Let's jump to the phone lines.
Robbie Davis, Zaxby's Hall of Famer.
To accept, press 1. To send a voice.
Robbie, what's going on, my friend? How are you?
I'm doing pretty good over here in Monk's Corner. How are you doing over there in Greenville?
I'm doing fantastic, man. Just sort of a wet, raining morning, but we're doing really well, man. I appreciate you asking what's going
on. First things first, I think personally, if we can with the men's basketball team, if we can somehow get to the point to where at first with Lamont Paris, where we're getting to like your guest just said, right? Getting to the NIT on a regular basis, that helps with a lot. It helps with recruiting. Anytime you're playing in the postseason in any sport, that helps with recruiting. Okay. And I truly do think that if we can somehow get to the point to where this men's team is making the NIT regularly, he can build off of that. And at some point, way in the future, we could possibly be in the conversation to compete in the conference tournament and possibly win a conference tournament and make it to the NCAA tournament. Because if you win your conference tournament, you automatically get into the dance.
Indeed. Yeah. So, I mean, I think you make some great points, man. I think that, and I think Lamont Paris has got us on track. It's just going to take some time. That's just it.
Right. And I have a more definitive prediction for tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Still, I got Florida getting 77. And it'll be 77-57.
I think that's fair. Yeah. I mean, I've got 73-50, so we're right on track, my guy. I think Pain is the prediction. Pain.
Yeah, lots of pain. Lots and lots of pain.
Mm-hmm.
And like I've said before also, like you got with like being a coach, first you got to crawl, then walk, and then you can run.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, Lamont Paris is in the crawling phase. Hopefully, by next season, he's in the walking phase. And then maybe a year or 2 years from now, we're in the running phase.
Yeah, and what does that look like for USC basketball? That is the question. So now you know, I'd like to see, and I think again, Dawn Staley's just shown that South Carolina fans love their basketball. You know, if Lamont Paris is able to put even remotely a winner on the floor, you know, people are going to show up. You know, Gamecock Nation's going to show up and, you know, and show out and you know, show massive amounts of support. So, I hope to see it, man. I really do, because, you know, I'll be, and from the selfish perspective, right? Like I started doing this, you know, 6 years ago. And so TSUS wasn't even a thing when the Final Four run happened, right? It wasn't even a thing really. And the podcast hadn't even started yet until like the day before the actual Final Four game itself. Right. So, but I would love selfishly to cover a Final Four run, or just to cover a team that makes the postseason, a team that's good enough to get in the tournament. That'd be such a blast. So I you know, we all obviously want to see that. We all have the same goal in mind. But I think it's going to take a couple of years to get to that point.
Yeah. And I think, and that's one of the problems with sports fans these days is we want to see success right from the get-go, and what we don't understand is what we don't understand anymore these days is it takes time to build a consistent winning program in sports, and keeping it that way is even harder, because you always got seniors or juniors leaving, and then you got freshmen coming in, and then you got to show the freshmen how you do things, and then so on and so forth. I hear the dogs barking in the background.
Yeah, something happened. Something happened. I don't know.
But you got to build. You got to just show that, hey, winning in this facet is possible if you have the right mindset as a coach and as a player. You have to have okay, this is going to be a little harder than I thought it was going to be, but it's going to be worth it in the long run if I stay here, right? Because we're getting the pieces, we're getting the right people in the room, the people are buying in, and we're going to get some stuff done that's never really been seen in South Carolina basketball.
Winning is possible, my friend. As Elizabeth Ballard says in our TDC Questions channel, winning is possible. Indeed. It's good to know that winning is possible.
Absolutely it is. You just got to have the mindset of you're not going to let nothing stop you.
I love it.
Do whatever it takes. But I'm going to go ahead and jump over here, because I'm assuming you're probably fixing to go to a break. You have a great rest of your day, and if you go outside, try and stay dry.
Will do, Robbie. Hey, I appreciate you, my friend, and we'll talk soon, my guy.
For sure. Have a good one.
Yeah, man. Take care. Robbie Davis, great stuff from the legend as always. Guys, we're going to jump into a quick break, as Robbie mentioned. But on the other side, I want to continue to hear from you, more of your questions, your comments, your calls, and more. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow. All right, guys, we're back. Taking your questions, comments, calls as well. 843-790-3377. Not to switch things up and turn this into a candy conversation, but I tell you what, I'm not like a huge sweets guy or anything. Not a huge candy guy, right? Every now and then I'll have a Snickers, whatever. But lately, I have been on a Sour Patch Kids kick. Like, I mean, I'm obsessed with Sour Patch Kids at this point. Like, I have been crushing some Sour Patch Kids. I don't know what it is. I just snag some between the people want to know what I do in the break. I literally checked on the dogs, snagged some Sour Patch Kids, and responded to an email. So if you want to know what I did, the email I responded to, again, guys, the spring tour is going to be happening. The dates we are still working on. I can tell you all this, though. We're going to be doing a lot of watch parties and different events around the women's basketball team, and specifically the SEC tournament and the NCAA tournament, right? So just stay tuned for that. The SEC tournament, of course, is right here in Greenville, Bon Secours Wellness Arena. And then the NCAA tournament, the Sweet 16 and Elite 8, that weekend is in Greenville as well. So, and that's later March. So really looking forward to it. Going to be a lot of fun. And then the spring tour, I believe now is going to start later in the month of March and run through probably the end of April. So that's how we're going to operate. You guys will know the details, and you'll know the dates as soon as we get them finalized. But really excited either way. Looking forward to it. Also, guys, today's a bit of a special day, if you will. Somewhat of a special day for yours truly. 6 years ago to the date, the first ever piece of content that I created with the Armchair All-Americans, Armchair South Carolina, first ever article I wrote, really the first ever piece of content that I created around like covering the Gamecocks in any capacity, dropped 6 years ago to the date today. So pretty crazy stuff. It's been a heck of a journey, heck of a ride, and it's wild how that article turned into what we're doing now here today. It's pretty cool. So yeah, first ever article I wrote, just to give you an idea of how long ago that was. It was about Hamza Nasruddin and Jamias Williams. I don't believe, John, the link even works anymore because Armchair All-Americans has completely like rebranded. Like they're not a thing anymore. They've completely rebranded. The site is not what it once used to be in regards like the way they were set up. And so I think, unfortunately, all that content has been lost. But yeah, still cool thing. I was talking about Hamza Nasruddin, who eventually went to Florida State, right? He went to Florida State. And we got Jamias Williams. And that was like a huge pickup at that time, right? Jamias was a 4-star guy out of the state of Georgia. So pretty wild, right? Pretty wild looking back, especially on like recruiting stuff like that and seeing where guys ended up, how things ended up, how guys turned out, stuff like that. So, but it's been a cool journey. And appreciate each and every single one of you. I know there's many of you tuned in that have been following along since the jump. And I'm truly appreciative of it, and really grateful for each and every single one of you. So again, 843-790-3377. It's 843-790-3377 here on this Wednesday, this hump day. And I will say this, Joseph makes a good point tonight. And I thought about this, Joseph, before you even said it. Tonight would be the night the Gamecocks would do something crazy and pull off an upset. Tonight would be that night, right? Tonight would be that night, no doubt. Tonight would be that night. So maybe. Coach Ford, Williams would have been a great player if our trust in Muschamp HC would have played him on O. I mean, I'd agree. You look at what he did at Georgia State, right? The guy was electric with the football in his hands. You look at what he did in high school, right? Playing offense. He was electric. Why did they not? That's one of the many reasons why Will Muschamp is no longer a head coach. So, I'll Let's see. Brennan M says, where'd it go? Confirm Chris doesn't want me to go to Greenville. Brendan, I that's not true at all, my guy. Carolina Ale House has a say in when these events happen. I mean, listen, if you want to just catch lunch with your guy, we can go to Carolina Ale House in Greenville if you want to catch a bite real quick, but it ain't going to be an event. It's not going to be a tour event. So, I mean, I hate to burst your bubble there, but yeah. My guy Dave Garrick, which on that note, I want to bring something up after I read his question. Chris, do you think Kingston will continue to change starters around, literally sacrificing the first game? No, I do not, Dave. No, I do not. While I didn't agree with the strategy, it was a strategy they had to take last year, Dave, because of injuries to the pitching staff, right? They didn't start the season that way. Will Sanders was your game one guy. They started switching things around because of injuries, bad performance, whatever it was, right? I mean, you had to thrust Matthew Becker into your starting rotation. So I don't think that's going to happen again. Ideally, if you stay healthy, which it's baseball, and inevitably, you hate to think this way, but inevitably somebody's elbow is probably going to pop. Somebody's probably going to get hurt. It's just one of those things. You just hope and pray that it doesn't happen to your top guys. I mean, that's a big storyline and something I should have talked more about when we talk starting pitchers, right? Is about, Jack Mahoney is a guy that you could see in your weekend rotation. How does he bounce back from Tommy John? Because it's not as just simple as like, well, he's healthy. You see guys come back the year after Tommy John and they struggle to find consistency for whatever reason, right? It's like they're relearning to throw. They're getting their feel back in their arm. And so what is the adjustment like, or what is the rebound like for him? What is the rebound like for Jack Mahoney? So, and James Hicks is the same way. But no, I think, fingers crossed, as long as we just don't get dreadfully snake bitten by injuries, I don't think you'll see us do all that shuffling that we did a season ago. I don't think you'll see that happen. On the note of David Garrick and I talked off air, and it's never too early to start looking ahead to football season and, what our plans are. And I would just say this, guys, I don't have anything concrete yet, but there's a couple of different options for us. Number one is to continue to just go to games and host the tailgate at Seawells and just kind of do the same normal thing we've been doing, right? Same normal thing. That's one option. Go to games, go to all the games. Do watch parties at Carolina Ale House, which I'd still like to do either way, no matter what, for the most part. That's one option. The second option would be to invest in the T-Sus bus, right? The T-Sus bus. And really make that a reality. And if we're able to find like a FanDuel, DraftKings, a big-time partner to financially support this voyage and support this venture, I'm all for it. And I think we should definitely make it happen. I think there's a lot of value to getting on different campuses and doing live shows from those venues, and the type of content we can make out and about would be really, really cool. The third option, and I'd love you guys' feedback on this because I value you guys' feedback greatly. The third option is this, and I think this is a really intriguing option, is I could stay back, not go to the games, watch the games in studio, and create content. Maybe even most likely probably definitely if this were the case, do maybe a live stream watch along, undoubtedly a live post-game show, maybe a pre-game show, something along the lines of that. I think there's a lot of value in that. I think there could be a ton of value in that because let's face it, my life as a Common fan is over. My life as a Common fan is over. And to John's point, he says, but the tailgate. The tailgate is incredible, John. I know this hits home for you. I understand, no doubt. Realistically, from the business side of things, the tailgate just served as a means, especially since I, just stopped, drinking wasn't a part of my tailgating this past season. It just served as a means to sell merchandise, which was really cool, and to meet people, which was really, really dope. But beyond that, I mean, there's no debate, right? There's no denying that I can create content more efficiently, more abundantly, more effectively when I'm in the studio. No doubt. That's not even up for debate, right? That's not even up for debate. Creating content in the stadium and trying to post anything is such a nightmare. Such a nightmare. Such a nightmare. So that's another option. That's another option. And I think there'd be a lot of value in that option. I really do. I know for a fact post-game shows would go crazy. Y'all know it too. Y'all know it too. A post-game TDC of Carolina football would go wild. I mean, I feel confident enough in saying we would set record numbers on a post-game show. Like there's no doubt, because you think about it, there really is a post-game show. 107.5 The Game. I think maybe Gamecock Central did something this past season. I don't even really recall. Like, I don't think there wouldn't be another post-game show that could touch us. Like, I mean, it would be nuts. It'd be nuts. Good and bad, right? Like, the calls we would get would be just absolutely ridiculous, I'm sure. But John says, thinking out loud, is there any way to get a live stream or radio signal put out for a live post-game show? We need to be able to hear as we sit in the parking lot. Get a live stream or radio signal put out for. So, I mean, John, yeah, the post-game show would literally just be like the Daily Crow. It would be this. Yeah, I mean, the post-game show would literally be this. It'd be the exact same setup. It'd just be after the game. Oh, is there a way to do an audio only? Well, I mean, why would we want to do audio only? I guess because it's easier to stream, maybe. I don't know. These are just all ideas. Again, I see Brennan M hitting the panic button, cancel the tip. No, these are just ideas. These are ideas I'm playing with. Probably won't make a decision for a little bit, but they're ideas. I mean, I had the idea last year, to be honest with you, of hosting live stream watch-alongs, and I know Travis Allen. Well, the good news is, John, you could tune in on Twitter as well. Hey, you don't have to do YouTube. You can do Twitter. You can do Facebook. Travis Allen made the comment, Chris, you should stream a baseball game this year. We could all watch and have convo about the game. The live stream watch-alongs were dope, no doubt. They were cool. They were cool. You can do audio only on Twitch. Really? I didn't know that. Okay. The live stream watch-alongs are really cool. Obviously, the thing that sucks, which is a no-duh if you've been following any sort of live stream watch-alongs, you can't stream the game, right, because of copyright stuff, and you can't stream that video. So it'd have to be one of those things where maybe I could have the audio in the background. We can use this lower banner here to kind of keep you guys informed of what point in the game we're at. You know, I did that for baseball, right? I'd put what inning, the score, all that good stuff. And you just get live reactions. And if we did that for football, you could just roll right into the postgame, right into the postgame. So anyways, these are all ideas I'm playing around with. I still obviously love going to games. I love being in stadium. It's so funny, though. I stayed back and watched the game from the RV lot for the Georgia and the Charlotte games. Okay. And I caught some flack for not going in. And again, I did that so I can create content. That's why I did it. My goal on game day, on football game day, baseball as well, in any of them, my goal on any sort of Carolina game day is to make the best possible content possible. Right? To make the highest value content I possibly can. And to create it at scale, right? And so that has to really take precedence. It does. It does. I will say the other thing that, would be nice, that doesn't really matter, I guess you could say, but, these tailgates, selling merch. I mean, I was busy from the time we got out there to kickoff. Like, there wasn't no chilling, nothing, which is fine, which is cool. I enjoyed the heck out of it. Love it. Love meeting you guys. Love shaking hands. Love conversating. Love chatting. But I didn't get to watch any of the other games. None of them. Hardly at all. So it would be nice to be like in studio, sit down, watch other games, kick it a little bit. I don't know. Anyways, these are all ideas. Like I said, these are all things I'm pondering, and it's the time to do so, right? It's the off season, if you will. Sports Talk Media Network just tweeted per the father, a tight end, Nick Harbor. Gamecocks coach Shane Beamer and his assistants are scheduled for their in-home visit tonight around 9 p.m. Following in-home visits from Maryland and Miami, Oregon and Michigan have been in. Harbor visits Oregon on Friday. So, Shane Beamer getting a visit in tonight, 9 p.m. They will be meeting with Nick Harbor. What a huge pickup that would be. Huge pickup. Anyways, guys, I'd love to hear from you. 843-790-3377. That is 843-790-3377. Travis Allen says, post-game content, staying home, save money, make money. I mean, it's a good point, Travis. It's a good point. I mean, there's definitely monetary opportunity, all right? There's without a doubt monetary opportunity. And, you know, I know a guy like LuTube, he does that, right? He does that. And I think that's how he makes his living is off that stuff. So there's certainly a big opportunity for it. It's one of those things to think about. And, you know, guys, as you all know, I'm somebody, I like to try different things. You know, I do. I like to experiment. And so I might, you know, I might mess around and try some different things with some different ways to create content, just see how it works. And, you know, I'll let you guys know, but I can tell you this. All of the decisions I make with TSUS, when it comes to business, when it comes to content, when it comes to merch, when it comes to guests, when it comes to anything, I make decisions that are going to bring the most value and the absolute best experience to our audience, to the end consumer, right? The end consumer, the fans, that's who matters. That's who matters. Does that mean I'm going to say everything you want me to say and, you know, say exactly what you want me to hear? No. But again, every decision that I make when it goes to business and everything else, it comes with the thoughts of the end consumer in mind. It does. So I just want y'all to know, when I make a decision, it's not going to be some selfish decision. If I chose to stay back and not go to games and do a live stream watch along post game show from the studio, well, it's not because I'm chasing money or I'm making the decision for money. It's because I feel like that is an area of opportunity that's going to provide immense value, maybe even greater than me being there in person. And that is kind of how I look at it. I do see it from that vantage point. You know, there's pros and cons to everything. There's reasons why it's a great idea for us to continue to go to games in person. But I just want y'all to know that every decision I make is for the betterment and the value, driving value for you guys. That's I know y'all know that, but I want to reinforce that. Brandon says, when the SEC goes to 16 teams, do you think it'll end up being the 4-pod system? 4-pod system. I don't think so. Not from what we've heard. I don't think so. I've heard nothing from really anybody that suggests that that'll be the case. So I think it'll just be 16 teams. Will it be 2 8-team divisions? I don't know, but I don't think it's going to be the pods from what I've heard. So anyways, guys, big game tonight in Gainesville. The Farmers Insurance Open first round starts today, Wednesday. Okay. Anyways, that's just kind of random. But big game tonight in Gainesville. South Carolina takes on the Florida Gators. 17.5-point underdogs. Tough. Is it too much? Is it not enough? We shall see. We shall see indeed. So, Travie, did you catch that Ed Reed video? Bethune-Cookman decided on not making him the next head coach. That's crazy. And I saw Dion voicing his support for Ed Reed, and yeah, it's just kind of a wild situation. I don't know. I mean, I haven't followed it closely enough to really give you like an opinion on it. Should Ed Reed? Is it fair? Is it not fair? But yeah, kind of wild. Kind of wild. Kind of wild for sure. So, guys, that being said, we're going to jump into one final break. On the other side, I want to continue to hear from you. More of your questions, comments, calls, and more. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow. All right, guys, we're back. Final 10 minutes or so here on the Daily Crow, taking your questions, comments, calls as well. 843-790-3377. And by popular demand, right, my guy John, he said he wanted a dog reveal. I know that Brendan maybe said the same thing. We've got Olive in the studio. Told you. We nicknamed her Little because she's tiny. So, you want to say anything? She's shy. She's camera shy. So we got the little, I feel like Dr. Evil where he's like, and the best part of this plan is no one can stop me. Mr. Bigglesworth. Yeah, she's adorable though. So she's going to join us for the final 9 minutes. So she might look chill and harmless, but I can assure you she's a little crackhead. So she gets after it. We got Rio on the floor in here. Rio's just chilling, so you probably won't see him wandering around. He's relaxed. He's not a lap dog. He's way too big though. Way too big to have any sort of reveal. So anyways, 843-790-3377. Again, guys, big game tonight in Gainesville. We'll have to keep an eye on, continue to see with recruiting. Nicholas Harbor, Shane Beamer and company. Final visit tonight. I wonder what they're going to tell him. Hey, we need you. We need you. I don't know. Oregon getting the last visit. How much of a difference does that make? I don't know. I feel like, what do you think? Where's he going? I feel like we're, South Carolina fans for the most part, we are optimistic to land him because there's so much positive momentum. But I don't know, man. I mean, Oregon getting the last visit, the Phil Knight money, the track team stuff, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, what a pickup it would be, right? What a pickup it would be if they were able to land Nick Harbor. So, you want to get down? You want to get down? Yeah. You can. She likes just chilling in the lap, though. She's just down here here, you want to get down? Literally the size of a football. Literally. So, I'll let you out in a second. Anyways, guys, appreciate y'all tuning in. Again, I'm playing Dog Dad. I am playing Dog Dad for the next, 5-6 days. John, she's a TSUS, or Miss TSUS is a Gamecock fan because of me. She's not even from South Carolina. She's from Ohio. So, which is fine with me. And she's going to pull for the Gamecocks because of me. We've already got her in the merch, already got her some custom merch. It's a really good thing. But, she's not like your USC alum, whatever. Which is, which I take it this, John, which is A-okay with me and is actually preferred. Because it's like I have my business, I have y'all, right? I have the Big Cock Club, I have my circle, my friends that I talk to. I've got social media, I've got my show. Like, I don't need her to fulfill the need of the Gamecocks. You see what I'm saying? As long as she'll go to games with me and go to events and stuff like that, and she enjoys those things, I'm not worried about. We don't need to talk about the game. Yeah, I mean, if she wants to, cool. If I want to, she'd listen. But you see what I'm saying? That's not a void I need her to fulfill in any way. I got plenty of outlets to talk Gamecocks and talk sports. I don't need my girl to be to do that for me. So, anyways, but she's a Gamecock fan. Yeah. Bottom line, John. Yeah, she's a Gamecock fan. So yes, you don't have to worry about she's not a Clemson grad or something. I couldn't do it. Couldn't do it. No, we are good. So, anyways, let's see. Yes, Brendan, you got the dog. Yeah, to the moon, my guy. To the moon. To the moon. Doge. They are chilling hard. I wish you could see. I could probably just position it here. We get check out. Okay, you can see him like laying down right there. He's just laying down on the floor. So really good stuff. We got the pups chilling hardcore today. Pups are chilling hardcore. Pups are chilling hardcore. Guys, podcast will drop tomorrow, episode 754. We will have the position unit preview series for the Gamecocks baseball team. We'll continue. We'll talk catchers on the show, break down the catchers in their entirety tomorrow. We also will talk the basketball game tonight. I'm going to wait till after the game to record. So we'll talk about that game, give a brief breakdown, if you will. Also, great conversation. I mean, I highly suggest, because we're at this time of year, we're at that point, you're starting to gear up, right? You want to know about South Carolina baseball. Who should I be looking at? What are the expectations? Aaron Fitt of D1 Baseball joined me for a great conversation. Highly suggest you guys check it out. Like I said, a lot of really good nuggets, a lot of really good tidbits. And like I said, D1 Baseball is high on the Gamecocks. So if you want to hear somebody speak highly on South Carolina baseball, and they are optimistic that Mark Kingston and Monty Lee and company can get this thing rolling. And thanks to the transfer portal, we could be sort of like last year's Texas A&M. So if you don't recall what I'm saying, A&M in 2021 went 9-21 in SEC play. A year later, they were a top 8 national seed, went to Omaha. So I think we'd all take that season. We'd all take that kind of turnaround. Really excited for you guys to hear that conversation. And of course, as always, TDC, this show will drop on our podcast feed at 3:00, as it does each and every single day. Also, tomorrow, guys, we're double dipping with the guests. We've got Michael Bratton, SEC Mike of That SEC Podcast, joining us at 12:15. 1:15, we'll have JC Sherbert as normal. I'll also go on Inside the Gamecocks at 11:30. And then on Friday, we got Kyle Peterson, college baseball analyst for ESPN. So we have loaded up on the guests this week. Really looking forward to those guys joining us, and excited for the insights and value they're going to bring to our show. What does G.G. Jackson do for an encore, right? 30 points against Auburn on Saturday. But this game, I think, really comes down to the guy you need to step up the most is Josh Gray. Josh Gray has shown you flashes. He has looked good in spurts, but he's never been able to put it together and be consistent. 6 points, 8 rebounds against Auburn. Colin Castleton, the 6'11", 250-pound forward for the Gators. He averages 14.8 points per game, 7.8 rebounds per game, and 3.1 blocks per game. If a guy like Josh Gray does not step up tonight, it's going to be a long night at the Stephen O'Connell Center. I mean, it's going to be ugly, most likely. If Josh Gray, some of your other bigs maybe, but I think Josh Gray is the guy that has the most potential, right? The former LSU Tiger, current South Carolina Gamecock. Again, we've seen him in spurts. We've seen him do it here and there. We need to see him put a full game together and start to build some consistency and be that guy down low, because that's what so badly this team is missing. Yes, you need more consistency from G.G. Jackson and Meechie Johnson and Hayden Brown, Chico Carter, Jacoby Wright, but you need that guy down low, and the Gamecocks just simply have not had it to this point. So Josh Gray, the guy that's got to step up. And I don't have high hopes, I'll be totally honest with you, but I'm also going into every single game with conservative expectations. Like I'm not getting out ahead of myself. I know this is a rebuild. I'm not, as a 17.5-point underdog, I'm trying to not set myself up for heartache, if you will. So, yeah. Anyways. Guys, we're about to hit 2:00. Appreciate you all tuning in again. Stay tuned to everything, the podcast, the content, social media, the merch, by the way, the merch, definitely the merch. I'm still working on merch behind the scenes. Might drop some later today. You never know. So, again, appreciate you all tuning in. Thank you all so much. Also, those in the Big Cock Club Discord, we'll probably watch the game in the Big Cock Club tonight. If our guy Dalton can stream, maybe I'll stream. Join the Big Cock Club today, patreon.com/Big Cock Club to get access to the Big Cock Club Discord. We are very active in there, always chatting, conversating, talking Gamecocks, a lot of stuff. I share a lot of things in there behind the scenes. You can ask any of those guys. I share a lot of things behind the scenes in there that I do not share to the masses. So Really, really good time, and highly suggest you guys check it out. That being said, we've hit 2 o'clock. Appreciate you all tuning in. Thank you all so much. I'll leave you with this. Go Cox, beat the Gators, and we will talk to you all tomorrow.